Welcome to Horror Cinema Obsession. Here, we dive deep into the chilling depths of horror cinema, from the critically acclaimed scares to the laughably ludicrous, and even the delightfully obscure. Now, let's join our hosts, Richard and Angelus, as they share their love, laughs, and sometimes sheer disbelief at the world of horror movies.
All right, we are back. Horror Cinema Obsession here. I'm your host, Richard, and this is my beautiful co-host, Angelus. How are you?
Hello, everyone. I'm doing pretty okay today.
You're doing good?
Yeah, I'm feeling better.
You're feeling better, I know. So we're a little delayed on our recording. This is Sunday night. We're kind of beat up this week. 1, work, and 2, Angelus was sick.
I keep catching these stupid colds. Nobody else in the house does.
Yeah, I'm golden, baby.
Where are these gross germs coming from?
I don't know. You need to stop licking the cart in the grocery store.
I'm not. I don't know what I do any different. I just hang out with you guys. I'm around other people in the office.
Are you taking your multivitamin?
Every single day.
You're getting up there. You're 36 now.
Get the fuck out of here. I'm so young at heart.
You are.
Okay. I don't know. It's been a weird year. I've never gotten...
It's been a weird year. It hasn't even, we're not even out of January yet.
I'm talking since last winter. We got sick in October. Remember? Like we were delirious.
I don't remember.
I remember that. Because you were trying to offer me to the fucking nun.
Oh my God.
Yeah, just like cold. I'll take a couple months off and then I'll catch another cold. It's stupid. Anyways.
Any doctors listening, give Angela some suggestions.
Hopefully everyone else is having a great, awesome time and not catching any gross germs.
Yeah, for sure.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands. So, good. Yeah. So, speaking of washing your hands, that leads me into asbestos and how you should check your house for asbestos. No, we covered a big movie this week. So, this one was a listener's pick, and this was a first time for me. Was this a first time for you watching?
Yes, and I just had a stupid thought.
We're this week, it's session 9, by the way, sorry, that we covered, the movie session 9. What were you saying?
I just I know asbestos is bad, but what the hell are asbestos?
Google it, get the definition.
A group of toxic, carcinogenic, and naturally occurring minerals? Where?
That's one of the materials we used to use.
Fibers, minerals. I just know that we talked a lot about asbestos in the movie, and we're going to cover it today. But it just dawned on me that I don't quite know. Okay, so it was in building materials?
Yep.
Fibers?
That it's no longer prevalent in the materials that we use now, but it was.
Okay.
And yeah, in session 9, the whole movie's predicated around that. Now, this is the first time I've watched it, first time you watched it. What are your feelings on it?
It was an interesting movie. The trailer was really weird. Never seen it before. I was trying to figure out what we were getting ourselves into. And they don't leave you with a lot from the trailer. It was very confusing, which is good, I guess, because you go into it. Sometimes
Google, if you watch, because we got Google Chromecast or whatever, sometimes when you click to watch a trailer on that without going to like YouTube, they give you a weird part of the movie that makes no sense. And sometimes it's not even entertaining. It's like a boring part of the movie. Oh, I think that's what happened in this one, too.
They just take you and they show you where there's not a lot of action. But overall, I enjoyed the movie. It did get me. Where I know that we had a conversation before where you said you kind of started following the story and seeing what was happening.
Yeah.
It did get me. I liked it because you had it playing on the background the first time we watched it. And I was trying to do other stuff. And it got my attention. I stopped doing what I was doing and I was... intrigued me. Yeah.
So it is. This goes along the line more the horror you like. It's a psychological thriller horror. Leaves a little bit more to the mind. For me, it's not, I don't lean towards that. But, so you like this movie?
I did, yeah.
I liked it too. At first, I kind of like it that it made me think. Like, this was a thinking man's horror movie. So at first I was confused. Like you, it was kind of the background, but I was paying attention. I just was kind of on my phone, our pre-prep kind of having the movie on. I was watching it. I was following it. Now I will say, I feel like I called it like pretty early on in the movie what was happening and how it was happening, what was going to happen.
I didn't.
Yeah, you rolled your eyes, but
I was like, shut up and watch.
I know. So I did call it. But that being said, I'm trying to put myself in the audience of 2001. Would I have guessed it? No, I don't think I would have, because it is different. We've just covered so much horror that I feel like I tap into the vein of it pretty well. So you got to be really good, or you got to not know what you're doing for me to not guess your movie. You like M. Night Shyamalan. You don't know what you're doing. I'm not going to guess what's going to happen, or it's so obvious.
Okay.
But this one was fun though. I had fun kind of guessing because I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe it's not going that direction.
Oh, we were 12 when this movie came out.
Yeah, 2001.
That's nuts. We were babies.
So yeah, but I did enjoy this movie, especially the second time around. It was fun piecing it together, like piecing my theory together. So this movie premiered at the Fantasia Festival in July 2001. Now, it had a limited theatrical release in the United States, and that was August 10th, 2001.
Okay.
The film was produced on an estimated budget of $1.5 million. Domestically, it earned approximately $378,000.
Nuts.
With an additional $1.2 million internationally, bringing total gross to $1.6. So we know from other movies and research we've done, a movie to make money has to double or triple its budget. So this one clearly did not. It didn't even break even. So while it had a production budget of the 1.5, it grossed only 1.6 worldwide, right? Considering marketing, distribution, and other associated costs, which are typically not included in the production budget, the movie did not turn a profit during its theatrical run. However, it did gain a cult following, like so many of the movies we've covered, over time. So it didn't necessarily, the home video market, it had a cult following there, but the boom that I read was streaming. So around 2014, 2015, streaming's coming. This movie got its status and talked about more and more through the streaming
platforms.
Yeah, platforms, which I thought was interesting. This is the first one of its kind that the movies we've covered were. This is episode number 43. So this is the first one that I've seen that got the following from streaming.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, yeah, you're talking about the marketing and the release, there was barely any. I don't know if you saw that it was produced by USA Films.
Makes sense. They got a bunch of CSI guys in it.
So I did read that they had the production company, they went into one of these meetings when the movie was complete, and essentially they walked in there and they're like, we don't know what we have here. So run into those issues where production didn't understand the movie. They were trying to do everything that they could to not produce it. At the same time, the production company was going bankrupt. So this was the last movie that they produced before being sold out. So at that moment, I read an interview between the director, writer, and...
Sold out or bought out?
It was bought out.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, they knew that they were going to be fucked on that movie because production didn't understand it. They were going bankrupt. It was all just chaos from there on.
Wow, it makes you feel good about making that movie.
Yeah, and so... And they filmed it, and it took a whole year to release it, because of the struggles of the production company and their financial stand at that point. So that kind of put another shadow over it when it came out and affecting that limited release.
So it was essentially doomed, which is kind of unfair because this movie is pretty good. We'll cover it a little bit, but it's a little, I don't want to say campy, but some of the shots on it are very young. You can tell a young director, one of his first movies. You can tell some of it, but he's got some veteran casting, and the casting's great, which we'll cover too. That being said, I get the confusion from the production company of this movie. So what was cool about this movie is it's the whole purpose, and it was purposely ambiguous. I can't say the word. And they say ambiguity all the time on it for my research. So pretty much the movie was left to interpretation of how it ended, what it was, what the motivation was in the story, right? So I have some theories, and do we want to go through that? Our segment of theories? Because at the end of this, I want to give you my theory of this movie and see if you're aligned with it.
Let's go down the rabbit hole.
All right. So the most common theory about Session 9, and again, folks, feel free to watch it. You do have to rent it. It's not streaming anywhere. So if you own it, watch it. But I encourage you to stop our recording and listen or watch it because it really is cool. And I'm going to spoil it a little bit. But the most common theory about Session 9 is that the film's events are a psychological manifestation of Gordon's guilt and mental breakdown, with Simon symbolizing his darker impulses rather than being a literal supernatural entity. So the key points to this theory, and this is the most common theory amongst fans of this movie. So key points of this theory is Simon as a metaphor for Gordon's inner demons. So Simon, who lives in the weak and the wounded, is seen as a representation of Gordon's guilt, repressed rage, and mental instability. The phrase suggests that Simon embodies the darker aspects of human nature, particularly in the moments of vulnerability. Another key point of this theory is Gordon's fragile state. So we see a slow decline of Gordon in this, our main character, right? We see the decline. So Gordon is under immense pressure, a failing business, a newborn baby, and marital strain. This stress, compounded by the eerie atmosphere of the Danvers Hospital, leads to a psychological unraveling. Another point is the role of Danvers State Hospital. The hospital is a physical and symbolic manifestation of madness. Its history of treating and mistreating mentally ill patients mirrors Gordon's own descent into madness. And the ambiguity of Mary Hobbs' tapes. So the tapes mirror Gordon's fractured psyche. Mary's dissociative identity disorder, with Simon being her darkest personality, parallels Gordon's internal struggle. Some theorists believe that the tapes serve as a warning to the characters or a reflection of Gordon's mental state, which, if it's a warning to the characters, though, isn't that supernatural? That's like some kind of supernatural thing if it's a warning.
Yeah.
So, supernatural versus psychological horror. While the movie has supernatural undertones, many interpret the event as psychological. Gordon's descent into madness is rooted in his guilt, and Simon is seen as a figment of his mind rather than an external demon.
Okay.
So the alternative theory is here, and I am on the alternative theory.
Okay.
This is the one I believe in that happened. It's supernatural interpretation. So some would argue Simon is a literal demonic entity, which I think, haunting Danvers, taking advantage of Gordon's vulnerability to possess him and cause the violence. Now, this one is a alternative theory that I don't necessarily get behind. Maybe you do. I'm interested. But some people interpreted that this is a shared madness that happens in this movie amongst the 5 crew for the asbestos removal. Okay. So the theory is that the entire crew succumbs to a form of folie à deux. I don't know, shared psychosis.
Okay.
With the hospital's dark history amplifying their paranoia and tension. So, what do you think about that?
I don't see that because I see the other two theories, but I don't see. To me, the other characters didn't express the same the characteristics that they were all sharing the
So,
madness.
I can see the shared madness being because you have essential traits. You have greed, Hank. You have stupidity, Jeff, because he's young and dumb. You have an obsession with
the tapes,
Mike. You have anger by Phil. And then Gordon is just guilt, and he has multiple guilt and stress.
But how's stupidity a madness?
I don't know. It just kind of feeds into it because I don't know. He's kind of a unique one because he's like afraid of the dark. He just kind of.
Nah.
Yeah. So here's my thing. I wanted to defend my theory is Simon as a demon in this movie. So when we think about Session 9, the character of Simon is shrouded in ambiguity. Is he a figment of Mary Hobbs's fractured psyche, or is he something much darker? A demon, perhaps? I'm going all in on the latter. Here's why. I believe Simon is a demonic entity that manipulates Gordon through his fragile state of mind. First, let's consider Simon's chilling declaration. I live in the weak and the wounded. That's at the end of the movie, right? This line perfectly aligns with the idea of a demonic force preying on vulnerability. Gordon is the embodiment of both emotionally weak and physically wounded. He's a man teetering on the edge, overwhelmed by the stress of running a failing business, the financial strain of a new baby at home, and the pressure to complete this impossible asbestos removal job. He's already fragile, but it's the moment he burns his leg that I think serves as the opening Simon needs to take control.
Okay.
Now, physical wounds are often symbolic in horror films, and here the leg burn isn't just a literal injury. It's a crack in Gordon's armor, essentially. A demon like Simon, who thrives on brokenness, seizes this opportunity to manipulate Gordon, exploiting his guilt and insecurities. What's more, Gordon hears the voice whisper, "Hello, Gordon," like in the beginning when he arrives to the job, almost immediately. So suggesting Simon targeted him from the start. The hospital may amplify Simon's presence, but Gordon's wounded psyche makes him the perfect host. Now, Simon's influence is gradual, but it's also insidious. We see Gordon's mental state deteriorate throughout the week. His guilt over slapping his wife, killing his wife, consumes him. But what if that guilt isn't entirely his own? What if Simon is planting seeds of paranoia and amplifying Gordon's darkest thoughts? Every whisper, every vision, every moment of isolation, these are all signs of demonic manipulation. By the time we reach the climax, Gordon isn't just a man pushed to his limits, he's a man under Simon's control. Now, the brilliance of Session 9 is the ability to keep us questioning in the madness. Is this madness or possession? For me, it's both. Gordon's fragile mental state makes him vulnerable to Simon, and the demonic force uses the weakness to manifest pure chaos. Simon doesn't just live in the weak and the wounded, he thrives in them.
Okay.
Sorry, that was long-winded.
Mic drop.
Boom. Hey, I put a lot of thought into this, man.
I know you did. So you think it's a demon?
I don't. No, I'm just
He just fucking went on about it. You think he's a demon, and part of it is that he was mentally fragile.
Well, think about it. And we're going to cover it in the scene by scene, but Simon in Mary Hobbs tapes is not Mary Hobbs's voice. Like, she has 3 other personalities. Herself, Mary, the boy.
Billy.
Yeah, and then the girl, the princess. And then you meet Simon, and he's been sleeping the whole time in her imagination or whatever. But then it's clearly it's a deep, menacing man's voice. Like, we can agree on that, right? It's a separate voice entirely, where the other 2, you can tell Mary's doing it, right?
Yeah. Or, yeah, you could tell that someone would be making it by how it sounded the pitch and the tone and the voices.
Yeah, it's a man with Simon.
No, with Simon, yeah, it's a different voice that they added there for the character.
Creepy voice, and it's dark, and yes, yeah, clearly.
So I have a theory.
Let's hear your theory.
My
Does it so
theory-
do you align, or is it a little different?
It's a little different than yours.
Let's fucking hear it.
Let's
This is tasty. I love it.
So, okay. My and I think it could be a demon. It could be because Gordon is the only one experiencing this when he's at the hospital. It only happens. We, the viewers, only see it when he sets foot into the hospital,
Well,
right?
Yeah, and I get a sense of anxiety watching this from him. Like, I'm getting stressed out watching him. You know what I mean? As a crew member, I'm feeling stressed out.
So because I can see it being a demon by the fact that he's the only one experiencing it. The demon, later on, we learn that his hosts are the weak and the wounded. Gordon meets those two those two things.
What about the voices, too? Consider this. I'm sorry to keep cutting you off. Consider this. Why is Simon's voice the same in his head? He's never heard the tapes of Mary Hobbs. Only Mike has in this movie.
Yes.
So why is the dude's voice the same?
The same. Okay. So it could be that. My theory, and this is, I'm not saying that I'm 100% sold on it.
Well, it's a theory.
But the other theory could be we're all humans. A lot of us have, dark inner thoughts. And what if Simon is the way to represent our inner dark thoughts and wishes, like actually manifesting themselves? And my example, before you get in there, so you know that I listen to like a lot of true crime. Some of those stories are really...
You're a middle-aged female, yes.
Yeah, so some of those are really fucked up, and so I'm sweet and innocent, as we all know, but sometimes I'm like, oh my god, that guy just fucking deserves to die a very long and painful death. So what if, like, Simon is that part of everybody who, like, just something just brings out so much rage, but these characters in specific, we have Mary and we have Gordon, they actually acted on it, but in their head, to try to, like, make sense of it, it's a Simon. So essentially, we all have a Simon inside, but only certain people act on it. So people that are going out there and doing bad stuff. I
will say we're coming from the same place. They act on it because they're the weak. They're weak and wounded. Like, they're fragile at that moment.
Yeah, but it's not... I know, but you're also saying, what if it's like an actual, like...
Demon. And you're saying everybody has that in their background.
That dark side. Your dark passenger, like Dexter would say.
Donnie Darko. I don't know.
Dexter.
I've never seen Donnie Darko, but yeah, Dexter.
So what if it's everybody's dark passenger, and then these people, because they are weak, they, essentially kind of have the other theories, they snapped, and they acted on it, and then... like Mary developed alternative personalities to cover her consciousness and keep herself innocent and not phased that she's like actually a dark person that's capable of killing her family. And Gordon is like tripping balls over here.
Which we don't know what happened because they keep asking what happened in November or
Christmas.
We never truly find out what happened.
We do at the end. Simon explains what happened because he's the only one that the princess and Billy are trying to protect Mary from, like, again, keeping her naive to everything that she did.
Yeah. And
so Simon's the one that's like, we did this, bitch. I don't know. That was my theories. What if everybody has a dark passenger and they just acted on it, and everybody has the dark passenger is Simon. So these people just decided to act on it because something broke inside.
Interesting.
And it's not a demon. They just did shit about it. I don't know.
Okay.
That was my theory.
Yeah, I like it. I'm right. But I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm kidding. That's what's fun about this movie. Any one of these theories could be right.
Yeah.
Not the shared madness one. That's fucking wild. I did not see that whatsoever. No. But the rest of them, all three, like what you just brought up, what I brought up, and what the overall theory that everybody thinks, it's all the same. Like, it's all could be accurate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what made this movie pretty fun. And because you can go down those rabbit holes and see, okay, I can see this or I can see that kind of thing. There was just too many like mysteries, like Mary Hobbs was patient 444. Well, he just coincidentally went and sat above her grave in the cemetery. Like, it's things like that where it's like, okay, that's supernatural happening.
Yeah. It was a big ass coincidence.
Yeah, I don't think so, man.
And it was the only fallen tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're both right on our theories.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not against your theory. I'm not against that at all. I think you're onto something. So
no, yeah, I think that's what the director and one of the writers was trying to say is they were trying to do something different at that time because the popular thing in 2001 was Scream, and they weren't trying to do
the meta
Scream.
Yeah. Which is kind of fascinating because it really is. It's different from any other movie in 2001.
It can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. Okay. So we can close the tab on that segment. Thanks for hearing me out on that. Yeah. It's kind of fun to think about. Mm-hmm. Should we go into the cast?
Yeah.
How do you feel about this cast? I think it was pretty loaded.
It was loaded. There's a few faces. I know you recognize them more than me. There's a couple that I've seen before.
David Caruso, CSI Miami, NYPD Blue.
Yeah.
And then I forgot the dude's name. Hopefully you got his name. The guy who gives them the job. He's in CSI Las Vegas.
Bill Greggs, Paul Guilfoyle.
Guilfoyle? He's the detective in CSI Las Vegas. The original.
These dudes are all CSI.
Well, those two are. I don't know about the rest of them.
And then we have Stephen Javidon, who plays Mike.
And he's the writer.
He's also one of the co-writers. So there's two writers. It's the director, writer, and then we have this guy who's a character and also a writer. Where is it? His face looks familiar, but when I was going through some of the other movies that he's been in, I can't recall watching them. He was in a movie.
Who?
Stephen Javidon.
Yeah.
Javidon. Or does he just have one of those faces?
I think he just has one of those faces, but I guess I've seen him because I've seen the Thin Red Line that came out in 98. And then I've seen War of the Worlds, 2005 version, Steven Spielberg's.
He was also a writer on that.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy.
Paranoia in 97. Hellbenders.
Who is Steven in this movie?
He's Mike.
Yeah, that's right.
He's the one that becomes obsessed with the tapes.
Right.
He was in Red Dead Redemption, the number 2, and then Red Dead Online more recently.
Oh, the video game.
In 2020. Yeah. And then you mentioned David Caruso as Phil.
Yep.
All the CSIs, Mad Dog and Glory, Twins.
Whoa. Not all the CSIs, just CSI Miami.
He was in NYPD Blue. And he was in Michael Hayes. So a lot of detective police shows, movies. And then we have...
he's kind of an interesting figure. So his career is long. I don't think he acts anymore. He's in like a clothing business now, but he is kind of interesting because, he plays a detective. That's kind of his typecast, his role, at least in the 90s and into the 2000s. So, but he had a movie career in the 80s. Like, he kind of was all over the place, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He's an interesting one because he's kind of, I don't want to see it overrated, but the movies are they're like a B action movies. Like, they're not like top bill. Does that make sense?
He was in First Blood for Love and Honor.
Yeah, he's a working man's actor.
Okay.
That's how I feel about him. It's just weird. He's not he's just not spectacular. He's not gonna be your A-lister, but he's kind of like B-list, C-lister, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's the guy who's gonna come in and work.
Oh yeah. And then you mentioned Paul I can't pronounce his last name. Gulfoyle?
Guilfoyle?
Guilfoyle? Fucking English, man. He was in Wall Street in 87.
Yeah.
True Colors. Citizen Cone. LA Confidential.
Citizen Cone or Kane?
I have Con. Cohn.
Oh, okay.
Amistad. And I wrote a lots of CSI stuff. And more recently...
Was he in a lots of CSI? Because I feel like he was in CSI Las Vegas.
There's a lot of... Let me look up his name. There's a lot to keep track and write him down. And then more recently, he was in Arthur the King.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have him. Well, you look him up. We have Peter Mullen as Gordon Fleming. So this guy looks super familiar. He was in Trainspotting in 96. He portrayed the character Swanee in the cult classic. And then he's in My Name is Joe in 98. Won Best Actor at the Cannes for his role as Joe Kavanaugh. And then this is where I really do remember him, is Westworld in 2018.
Oh, okay.
Featured as James Delios in HBO's sci-fi series. I really liked him in this. He's Irish, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got that thick accent. I thought he did really good in this. Did you got Guilfoyle?
I got Guilfoyle.
Okay, what's
we got
up?
Guilfoyle down. So he was... Okay, let me scroll down to the CSIs. He was in CSI, Crime Scene Investigation,
Yeah, the
Dimension of Murder, Hard Evidence, and then we have Fatal Conspiracy, Crime Investigation, Immortality, Vegas, like you mentioned. And I think that's it.
And that's it?
So there was a lot of CSI in there that threw me, and I was like, oh.
Interesting. I don't know. I just remember him in the original.
Okay.
And then, yeah, David Caruso, I want to bring up 2002 to 2012, dude, as Lieutenant Horatio Kane.
That's funny.
Redhead in Miami, dude. I love it. Hey, when you think of CSI Miami, what do you think of, like, first thought?
The letters.
You don't think of the theme song? I always think The Who. Yeah.
I never watched CSI.
Oh, I did. But I like the songs. I like The Who.
They have good songs.
Yeah, dude. It's always The Who. Anyways, sorry, close that tab. David Caruso, shout out. Horatio Kane, shout out. That's what's up.
That's what's up.
And then we have Josh Lucas. Now, this guy's not a stranger to our podcast.
No.
He, if you remember, was in American Psycho. Not a big role in it, but he is one of Patrick Bateman's so-called friends or cronies. He's in the restaurant a couple times. So, but then that's not even the most notable film for him, for me at least. You know what that one is?
Sweet Home Alabama.
Reese Witherspoon, baby. I don't know. As a kid and having, like, I had my two female cousins, my sister,
Your mom,
my mom,
probably.
they all fucking watched the shit out of that movie. So now when I look at Josh Lucas,
you just see him making glass out of
being a pilot, he has a little plane that he flies into the river.
Witherspoon sticking up her nose because he wasn't successful.
Yep.
Bitch.
He's blue collar. I remember him in that. But although it's changed, he's in the newest The Purge. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Where it's like, what do they call it?
The Forever Purge.
Yeah, Forever Purge. He does a pretty good job in that. I like that movie. We might have to
watched
cover
Sweet
it.
Home Alabama a lot of times.
Oh my God.
I
Not
know.
you.
Yes, me.
It's not for you.
What the fuck? What does that mean, Richard? Please.
It's a Reese Witherspoon.
I
I
like
forgot.
Reese
It is
Witherspoon.
you. It is you because you watch Reba. You watch all that, dude.
I like Reese.
Secretly.
Legally Blonde.
Oh my God. Secretly, Angela loves all this shit. She also likes monster
It's
trucks.
not secret.
I'm not implying anything, but she likes monster trucks, pro wrestling.
You love pro wrestling more than me.
Okay, I've been kind of getting back into
I
it.
took you to one once, and now you're
It's
like
fun.
watching it every Monday on Netflix.
I'm not gonna lie, it's on. It's fun.
There's a lot. It's a lot more dramatic than I remember.
Dude, the drama soap operas, I love it.
And Monster Trucks, we took the little Lucas. So.
And you play cornhole. Like
I
I'm
did not play.
Hey,
cornhole.
again. I'm not implying anything, but guys, take it for what it's worth.
The fuck ever. Oh my gosh. Anyways.
So that's Josh Lucas. Now, he also was in A Beautiful Mind in 2001, played Charles Herman in the Oscar-winning film.
Have you ever watched Yellowstone?
Never gotten into that. I think I will, but I don't really get when
You think
things
you will?
when things are popular in the moment.
You
I don't like
don't.
watching. I'm like, but later on, I'll watch it. You know what I
I've
mean?
never have, but he's been there for 4 years on and off.
Josh Lucas is?
Yeah, in 2018 to 2022.
Dude, I do remember him in Ford versus Ferrari. He plays Leo Beebe.
Of course you watched that movie.
That's a good one. Christian Bale, dude. Matt Damon.
Oh my god.
And then we have Brendan Sexton III.
I didn't
as
realize.
Jeff. Guess what? Guess what movie he was in that you love?
Black Hawk Down. 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Yes.
When I was looking through his credits,
I don't know which character he was, though.
I've seen more of his stuff than the other actors.
Really? Empire
Yeah.
Records, it seems like everybody was in that movie.
He was in Black Hawk Down, The Killing, the TV show, which I saw, 7 Psychopaths.
You've seen Black Hawk Down?
Yes, I like that. That's the only war movie that I've ever
Dude,
watched, and I
we gotta
actually
watch-
enjoyed.
I like that Josh Hartnett movie, but I also like Saving Private Ryan. That one's really good.
7 Psychopaths, The 3 Billboards, Shelby Oaks. I've heard of it, but I've never watched it. More recently, he was in 7 Hours to Die. He had a lot of credits to his name too.
I like it.
Boys Don't Cry.
Ooh, okay. And then, so yeah, what do you have on the director?
The director.
And co-writer, Brad Anderson. So, Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson.
His name sounds familiar, and I know why it does, because I'm looking at my notes. The Machinist.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever seen that? That's the one where Christian Bale lost all that weight
I've
for
seen
the
the
role.
pictures.
Where
but
he's
I
looking like
haven't
this.
seen
He's
it.
like,
all scared.
you can't see me, but I'm making like the sucked in face.
Yeah, he is from Madison, Connecticut.
He also, this came out in 2013, The Call with Halle Berry. I feel like that movie came out way, like, not that
Later?
long ago.
Yeah. We're old.
Fuck, dude. You know what other movie I was talking with my bandmates earlier on?
I don't know what.
MacGruber. That shit came out in 2007, 2008. I feel
don't
like
know
it
what-
came out like a few years ago.
I don't know what my Gruber is.
It's the sound I make sometimes when we're making whoopee.
What the fuck?
I'm kidding. I won't do it. Whoopee.
Oh my god, Richard.
I'm kidding. I won't do it. I'm embarrassing Angela's.
You're making my ugly laugh come out right now, and I'm sick. You're so dumb. There's a sound in the movie.
Yeah, I won't
What's
make
the
it.
sound? Do it. I triple dog dare
He's
you
like,
too.
and MacGruber is like,
And what is he doing? Is he making whoopee?
yeah. I love that term now, guys, making whoopee.
People want to listen about session 9, not your whoopee making.
Oh, fuck, dude. That's not me. That was MacGruber.
Okay. Secretly.
Get the fuck out of here. Stupid.
Am I embarrassing you?
No, you're hilarious. Painting me as that. Oh, my God.
Next time you see something stupid, I'm just going to be like, hey, hey.
We gotta watch that, dude. You've never seen MacGruber? It's so stupid. It's funny.
No, who's in it?
Oh God, it's an SNL skit that turned into the movie. Ryan Phillippe's in it, but the guy who plays it is fuck, dude. What's his name? He was in SNL for the longest time. Type in MacGruber. God, guys, someone listening is just screaming at us.
MacGruber. Oh my God.
What's the guy's name?
Will Forte?
Yeah, Will Forte.
Will Forte.
You've never seen it?
No. Oh, he was in The Last Man.
Yes.
I know him from there.
And SNL, dude. He's a legend.
Yeah, The Last Man on Earth. That's funny.
Oh my God, MacGruber.
I can't even do it right now.
Sorry, guys.
Back to the
Let's
director,
digress.
Richard.
Let's get to the director. No, he did not do MacGruber. Did The Machinist, Next Stop Wonderland, a romantic comedy that garnered critical acclaim, Trans-Siberian in 2008, a thriller set on the Siberian Railway. And then The Call, like we were saying, Halle Berry vehicle. She plays a 911 operator.
Uh-huh.
What do you have on him?
He's family. He comes from famous family, but he went to college to major in anthropology and Russian, which was interesting. And then he took a turn. And he went to London and finished his film education in London before returning to Boston. And then that's where he started writing. He started out writing and directing romantic comedies.
So this is not his first film, which I'm kind of surprised given some of the camera angles and kind of the route he took on
Well,
this.
he didn't have
it felt kind of amateurish in some parts. I'm not saying all of it. It's pretty polished, but it felt kind of amateur in certain areas.
I think he was trying to experiment at times with the camera.
And I'm trying to remember in 2001, it's a little bit after you had Blair Witch. So a lot of the films got they got a lot of inspiration from it after that. You know what I mean? The Blair Witch and certain, what is that, found footage? I think he was kind of playing some of that too.
Yeah. Yeah, his first movie that he directed was Wake Up on the Road with the Zen Master in 92. And then Frankenstein's Planet of Monsters.
What?
The Darien Gap.
I've never heard of it.
Next Up Wonderland and Happy Accidents.
Yeah.
Before he went on to Session 9.
Yeah. Babe, I got a question.
Oh, what's up?
For Valentine's Day, can we go see Heart Eyes?
Are you asking me on the...
I'm putting you on the spot. It's out February 7th, guys, in theaters. Go see it. We got to support our horror movies. It's going to be fun.
It doesn't look too special, Richard.
Also,
fine, we can go.
Yay, we're gonna get criticized for going on tangents. Me personally, I'll take ownership. But if you haven't watched the new Goosebumps season, The Vanishing, definitely watch it. It's a must. David Schwimmer's fucking awesome in it. I did enjoy it thoroughly. Richard
watched it in one weekend.
I did.
That's all he did with this weekend.
I did.
Good job, babe.
Yep.
Goals.
What's up? Do we have anything else on the cast or director or writers?
Yeah, so the other writer that we have, like we mentioned, was
Stephen Gavadon.
He's an American actor and known for his recurring roles in Oz, Show Me a Hero, Madoff, and The Deuce, portraying Josiah Trelawney. I don't know what I'm saying. And he's been a recurring character in a video game, like you mentioned, Red Dead Redemption.
Oh.
But so between the two of them, obviously, they came up with the concept for the movie. They found inspiration on the Richard Rosenthal case, which I think I've heard of it before. For the movie, which at the time it was a well-known double murder that occurred in Boston in the mid-90s. Uh-huh. So it was this guy, super nice dude, financial analyst, had a quote-unquote normal life, a wife and a new child, and someone realized that they hadn't seen or heard from his family in some days. So they went and did a well check at his
welfare
house.
Check, okay.
And they discovered that he had murdered them. He murdered his wife and his baby, and he stuck his wife's heart and lungs on stakes and put them in the backyard.
Wow.
And so one day he just snapped, he went about his routine for a few days. And
what a real goofball.
What a real goof. Simon just got in his head, man.
He made a goof.
The other inspiration was Danvers State Hospital. Anderson, the director, lived in the area.
Yeah.
And so he used to drive past it all the time. And he just kind of got interested by the building. And we can talk a bit more later.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about it. Do you have any more you want to add to that? So let's take a quick break. This week, guys, I won't have a cool commercial for you, but I just want to point that out. I'll let you guys down. But we'll be right back with more talk on Danvers Hospital. Angelus did a lot of research on it.
You'll be so excited. Toodaloo.
All right, we are back. I'm better than ever. Angelus, how was your break?
It was delish.
It was delish.
Yes.
So, like we promised, we want to talk about Danvers Hospital. So this Danvers Hospital is just as much a character as any other characters in the story, huh?
Yes.
And you did a lot of research because this kind of stuff fascinates you, as it does to a lot of people, especially in American culture. Ghosts and ghost towns and people like abandoned shit, I've noticed, including us.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a big part of the movie because they could have filmed this movie in any other place, in any other building. But
they chose this one.
But they chose this one, so it just adds to the mystery. It adds to you not knowing on what the story, like, is it a demon? Is he just crazy? It just brings on that eerie, creepy. It adds to the ambience of the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
It gives you the hibbity-jibbities.
The heebie-jeebies?
The hibbity-jibbities. So, a little bit about the hospital, State Danvers Hospital. Again, like I mentioned, so Anderson, the director, he lived in the area around Boston, and he would drive past it quite often. And he had heard, since it has been abandoned for some time, so with that it comes that, oh, it's haunted, oh, this happened there, and oh, that happened there. And he realized he had never been inside the hospital before, so he found someone to give him a tour. The hospital is shut down, or it was shut down at the time, and they had signs all over saying to not trespass. He got someone in there, and they took him through and gave him a tour of the hospital. And it is really like the thing that was fascinating to me was in the movie, the hospital that we see is as it really was back in that time when the movie was filmed in 1999, 2001.
Okay.
They did very minimal adjustments to the setting. I think there was only 3 rooms that I found that had been set up for the movie. Other than that, they added a couple elements like a hose here and there. But other than that, like what we see in the movie is truly what the state of the hospital. So it really was that decayed. It wasn't really poor. In a very bad situation, it was falling apart. There were areas that were flooded.
Yeah.
They really did have asbestos, so there were like for sure areas that they were not supposed to be near. So he liked this for the setting of the movie, and they contacted someone in government.
Yeah, and they absolutely went untouched. This, right?
Yeah, except for there was a room where they put a hose. They hung up some gloves, and in another place they hung up some meat hooks. But that was it.
99.9% of this was
as
untouched.
It was.
Yeah, which is fucking nuts. And it closed when?
I have it down here.
Was it 85 or something like that?
Yeah, most of it closed in 1985, and then in 1992 was a permanent shutdown. So the hospital, and at the time they were having, like you see in the movie, they really were having issues with teens and people breaking in, trying to just get in and get a scare. And they, when they were taking a tour, part of the movie where we see the tunnels, I guess they really were as dark as they paint them in the movie.
That's awesome.
But the hospital, originally, it was known as the State Lunatic Hospital at Danvers. That name would not fly today.
No.
It opened in 1874, and like I said, it permanently shut down in 1992. So it was open for 118 years. The goal of the hospital initially was to cure patients of all of their ills. At first, it was very successful. It was meant to house 450 patients, and it had a good reputation. And so slowly, its population, at one point, it was 2,300 people.
2,300 people.
When did it
open? 1874?
1874, yes.
Jesus. That's
But
crazy.
this is crazy. So they had
And it really does look like a bat, like it's referenced in the movie.
So they had 2,300 people, but it was only a capacity for 450. So the struggles that they run into is administration started asking the state and other agencies for funding to hire more staff and put more beds, and they kept getting denied for any money. And it was so overcrowded at one point. I guess you could see patients walking around just completely in the nude.
So this was kind of across the board. We've seen this in mental facilities in Philadelphia, across the nation.
Jails.
This is why ultimately, but no, mental facilities in particular, that's why these got shut down.
So they were walking around in the nude. They lived in their own filth because there was a lack of basic hygiene. And people, instead of getting better, they were getting worse and getting diseases and everything. Shock therapy and straitjackets became a norm. And when shock therapy was not working as well as they hoped, is when they jumped onto lobotomies. And so that came around 1939 when they were looking for a permanent fix for some of the patients that they had. And in 1939, when they started practicing lobotomies, they had 278 people die.
Wow.
And not because of lobotomy in specific, but big coincidence that they started this practice and they had a spike in deaths.
Wow. So it was the lobotomy.
Neurology experts do often call this hospital the birthplace of the prefrontal lobotomy. So that kind of tells you a little bit. Yeah. And so slowly it started shutting down in 1969. Like I mentioned, a lot of it in 1985, and then finally 1992. And then after that, it started being used as a place for tourists to go and try to get a scare.
Okay, cool. So that's kind of the background on this.
The other thing that I thought was interesting, and this might be just a big coincidence, but I think this is what spun some of the haunted stories. It was built on a glacial drumlin named Hawthorne Hill, the hill happened to get its name from the original owner, which was Judge John Hawthorne, who was a judge during the Salem witch trials. And so people were like, oh, this is why the hospital failed, because this dude was involved with these trials.
That's crazy, dude.
But so the fate of the hospital went down to in 2005. It was sold to a residential apartment developer, and it changed hands again in 2017. The hospital is pretty much gone from what it used to be now. I think only 2 buildings remain untouched. And then main administration building, there was a big fire that also took place at one point, but now it's a bunch of apartment complexes inside.
Like everything
else.
Turns into apartments, anything cool.
I guess they need to put people somewhere.
I guess.
To live.
I guess.
Yeah, but I just thought it was interesting that I thought it had been set up for the movie, but it was not.
Cool.
That's as it was. And it's raw.
Okay. I like it.
Creepy.
Okay.
Yeah, so that kind of led me into people's obsession with abandoned facilities that we kind of touched about. Do you want to keep going with this, or you want to pivot?
This is kind of an interesting take for us on our horror ventures, but let's finish it out. I want to see where this goes. I want to see this through, Angela.
You want to see this through?
Yeah, I want to see this through. So bear with us, guys. Let's go through this. And if you do like talks like this or segments like this, please reach out to us. Let us know.
Well, listen, it's someone's obsession with abandoned facilities why we got session 9. Because this guy saw the hospital and was like, let's do it right here.
Right here.
Right now. So I was just kind of interested, and it's like, okay, well, this guy picked this facility to film his movie, and it did add a lot to the movie.
It was a big part. Like I said, it plays a crucial character.
Yeah, so just the obsession with abandoned facilities. Obviously, I just feel like a lot of people enjoy them. They were just rich with so much history.
It gives you such an easy, it's an easy access point to your imagination. Let your imagination go wild in a place like this.
they open the door for so much mystery. The architecture is unmatchable. Like, we don't have a lot of those, like, new architecture places. Yeah, they make really cool buildings, but like this type of old
I don't know. I like that old school Gothic.
architecture, you don't see that in new buildings anymore.
It's not dark anymore. It's not Gothic. I like that look. And sadly, we are seeing it being
torn
removed
down,
and tore down for apartments.
Yeah. So one of the other things that when I was just kind of looking and seeing, so, obviously every time you visit one of these places, it gives you a sense of adventure and exploration. It releases adrenaline in our bodies, which is associated with...
If you want to believe in something like ghosts, it's easy to believe that ghosts live in areas like this because it's dark, it's creepy, it's musky, it's got everything. It's got the whole recipe to, if you're looking for something, you're going to find something. Thing. You know what I mean? Now, do I necessarily believe in that kind of stuff? No. But do I want to? Hell yeah, that would be awesome. And I do check places like this out. There is that off chance to be proven wrong. And I want to see that. I want to feel that creepiness.
There's also nostalgia. It gives you a chance to do a little bit of time travel. Again, just
which is awesome.
How people used to live before. And there's also that fear and anxiety, which it's just a natural response. Our bodies naturally, were wired to survive and to be on the alert.
Survival, remember my anxiety for survival?
Which anxiety and survival?
When I have to poop.
Oh.
When I'm afraid, I'm like, ah.
But God. So we're naturally wired to be on the alert when you walk into places like this. And it can lead to you being in an heightened state and just be more triggered by that fear.
Sure.
And then, like I mentioned, so oftentimes, that unknown leads into making up stories. So kind of what you were saying. So you walk into these places and obviously your mind's going to wonder like, oh, I wonder what happened here. I wonder what happened there. Yeah. And then stories are born. So yes, there was a tragedy that happened and there must be a ghost and now this is cursed and this is haunted. And it ties along like we see throughout, especially like in US, there's a lot of those ghost towns. Right. They're abandoned. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're actually haunted, but I don't know. I just find that interesting that they just get assigned that ghost town just because they're abandoned, but they're pretty cool to go and look at.
And we've done a couple. We're not strangers to it. Last year we took a vacation. We went to Montana and seen a prison. That was cool. Abandoned prison. And then me and Vienna were trying to get you to stay in a psych ward, abandoned psych ward in Montana, but you didn't want to do it.
I still will not do it. I'll drive you guys. I will not spend the night there. You're right. You're going to call me like, I need to poop and I can't poop here. There was also that we did stop at a ghost town. I can't remember the name of it outside
Montana. Yeah, that was pretty cool too.
That one, how did you feel about that ghost town? This one was it was far away from the main city. We had to drive quite a bit up, like 40 minutes?
Yeah.
So it used to be a gold mining town. So now you go in there. There is one cabin that was privately owned. And there's signs telling you to stay off of it. But everything else is just abandoned cabins. One bedroom, you go in, you have your bed, and you have they have those wooden stoves that they had back in the day. And then they have their one hotel.
Yeah. It was pretty cool.
You didn't get weird vibes from them?
No. But yeah.
So I don't know. They just kind of grown all over the place. And then you run into places where obviously there were more tragedies. Like you have the catacombs of Paris, you have Chernobyl, which people try to go visit. But I guess
the Holocaust,
it just comes back to all the stories. I mean, history and then stories are born.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Thanks for the segment. That was awesome.
You're welcome.
Did you have anything more?
No, that's it. That's all I have,
right,
sir.
interesting. That was a cool take. Again, guys, let us know the feedback on that. We're trying new stuff just to kind of break up the, I don't want to say monotony, but just kind of break up the norm.
Throw it up.
Yeah. So, but what I do like that we're coming back to full circle, baby. Did you write a plot?
I did.
I wrote a plot too.
That's cool, dog.
I know. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Let's start it off.
Me?
Yep. Let's hear
Oh
it.
my god. Okay, so my plot starts off the story of a group of men who take on the job of a lifetime, cleaning up an abandoned hospital facility, where their boss Gordon scores them a hefty bonus if they can tackle the job in half the time. Excited about the possibilities, day in and out, the crew comes and goes, determined to complete the task at hand, unaware of what lurks in the shadows and hides behind the walls. The building, having once housed over 2,400 patients, now hosts ruins, history, stories, secrets, and the unknown. Beings and demons that target the weak and susceptible to the point of no return. The end.
Okay, cool. I like it.
Like him?
I like it.
Short and sweet.
Yeah, mine's short and sweet too. All right, session 9, Gordon's breaking point. A group of asbestos workers takes on a rush job at the abandoned Danvers State Hospital, a place that screams, "Don't go in there." Leading the crew is Gordon, a new dad drowning in financial stress whose crumbling business is matched only by his mental state. As they uncover creepy therapy tapes, including one from Mary Hobbs, whose many personalities might not be the only thing haunting the halls, paranoia and guilt take over. With tensions running high, Gordon's unraveling might just be scarier than the ghosts. And spoiler alert, no one leaves sane.
Dun dun dun.
God, I was fumbling through it, but I think
You got through it?
Yep.
Good job,
Spoiler
kid.
alert, no one leaves sane. What's up?
What's up? Hey, it's kind of like mine, to the point of no return.
I like mine better.
Of course you fucking do. You're biased again in favor of yours.
It's pretty good. Oh my God.
Good job.
Good job. Cool. So that's our plot. We haven't done it in a while, guys. If you want to vote on that, please let us know. Do we want to go in for the scene? First scene.
Let's do the scenes. Escena por escena. Mano a mano.
Okay. Where do we start?
We start off with Gordon. It reminds me of, did you ever watch the Lizzie McGuire show?
Gordo? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anywho, so is Gordon having a conversation with Phil, and they're just talking about what's going on in life.
And they're sitting outside the prospect job.
Yeah. And Phil's pointing out, like, hey, man, you look a little tired. Do you need any help? How are your wife and child doing?
Well, it's painting the picture before that, before we notice the kid. He's got diapers. He's got baby wipes on the dash of his car.
He's a true dad.
Yeah, his car's full of shit, but you can tell it's a guy who clearly has a lot going on. And they're talking about that, right?
Yeah, and he's like, are you good? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. And they're waiting by the gate because the hospital's closed off.
And he seems normal here. Like, Gordon doesn't seem the Gordon that we see. And it happens pretty rapidly. But right now, he seems normal.
So we get a little background information. They give you their new child has had an ear infection for days that is not going away. She's crying nonstop all the time. And him and his wife, Wendy, are exhausted.
Yeah.
That tells you that he's not getting sleep.
Right. And with the failing job that we're going to find out, it's just no sleep. He's stressing out hard.
Mm-hmm. And so there's a security guard by the gate. They're waiting for someone else, the contractor, to get there so that way they can be let in. And the guard says something.
Well, they ask him, they're like, why? This hasn't been open since 1992. And he's like, yeah. He's like, well, why the need for a security guard? It's to keep people out.
Yeah, he said
Obviously.
that people keep breaking in there.
Yeah.
The other thing that was interesting, and I know that it sounds like it's a real thing that happens in some cities when the hospital shut down. All those patients, there was a ton of patients, they had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So a lot of
They put
them
'em
were
on the street.
homeless.
Yeah.
And they themselves kept trying to go back to the hospital because it's the only home that they had and knew.
God, that's
Oh,
sad.
it's so sad. Yeah, and they kept trying to go back there to sleep. So then so they go back to having their personal conversation, and then Gordon mentions that the company, the contractor that they're meeting, he already got another bid for the hospital, and it was low. And Phil mentions, he's like, yeah, it might have been low, but Bill likes the work getting done fast.
Yeah. So they're already kind of setting up, here's the game plan.
Yeah.
But quickly, Gordon pivots.
So they make their way up to the hospital, and at this time, Bill is with them, the contractor. He's giving them a tour of the hospital, and Gordon's like, okay, show us what areas, like, where the work needs to be done, so that way they can assess it and see if it's something that they can do for him.
Right.
So he's giving him a rundown of the hospital, what it was for, and he tells them that there's a cemetery outside and there's no headstones, just numbers. Outside, there's a morgue in the basement, and
well, you get a sense that this guy he knows him really well. They're almost buddies, almost friends.
Yeah.
So you can tell he does a lot of jobs, or they do a lot of jobs with him. Or he hires them on to do it. So he's walking through it. They're walking through. They're bullshitting, and then they finally settle back. They loop back, and they're back at the entrance. And then they're talking about it. He's like, yeah, this is a problem. Gordon's assessing it. And Phil, like, yeah, these are huge. This is a problem. This is a problem. And Gordon's like, you know what? I can do this in 2 weeks. And then Phil's like, what the hell? We just talked about it. It's at least 3 weeks minimum.
Yeah.
And he says that. And then Gordon's like, nah, we can do it. If I hire an extra or a fifth guy, we'll get this done in 2 weeks. And then they go outside. He's like, that's why this guy's team captain or whatever. And they walk out, and Gordon's talking to him still. And what's the guy's name?
Bill.
Yeah, Bill. He's talking to Bill. You can tell they know each other outside of work because he's asking about his kid and all that. And then he's like...
And the other thing that's really sad later on, sorry to cut you off, that guy asks about the baby and how they're doing, and he's like, oh, I'm happy for you guys. I know you and Wendy were trying for a bit. So they were trying to have this kid for a bit.
Yeah, but so Gordon's out there. He's desperate. So you're getting the vibe. His business is struggling. This is kind of, he needs it. Because he starts even saying, he's like, hey, man. And Bill's like, this is not how the bidding process goes. He's like, you know what? This Monday, we're going to do this. And we're going to go and we're going to put this in the bid, and then the following Monday we're going to start. And you know what? We're going to do this in 1 week. I'll get this job done in 1 week. Bill can't pass that up because he's like, okay, you get a bonus if you finish it in 1 week, but if it takes longer, then that's on you, kind of thing.
$10,000 bonus.
Yeah, which we don't know at that moment. We later find out with the other crew, but so Bill is incentivized to do it, so he takes him up on the offer. And now that goes away, and then we see Gordon go back to his house, right?
Before we go to the next scene, this first tour that he got of the hospital is when we initially start hearing a voice. We don't know whose voice it is, but there's this chair that the movie keeps coming back to.
Yes, in there.
A vacant chair is just sitting there.
Bill and Phil walk away, but Gordon's standing there looking at this chair. And this is where we don't know it yet, but we hear Simon. And this is where he's like, hello, Gordon.
Yep. And that's all you hear. And you're like, what's happening?
And Phil's like, hey, man, are you good? Let's go.
Yeah, because it's Gordon does a phase and there's like static noise in the background.
Yeah.
And it just gets everything around him in this scene gets dark, and it's just his face, and he hears the voice. So that gives you like a creepy, like, oh shit, what is this?
So yeah, and that to me is the launching off point that Simon has now infiltrated. He found his vulnerable person and has latched on to Gordon's soul and psyche. But now, after that, we see him roll up to his home. He's across the street, which this has got to be the busiest street I've ever seen for a house. Who would buy property on a busy street like that?
I don't know.
I would not, especially with a newborn child. You know what I mean? And cars are zooming by, and he's on the opposite side of the street.
Yeah, he's sitting there.
And his wife and kid and dog are outside, right?
Yeah, they're outside. The dog's barking. And we don't know that it's his wife at first, because I was like, what is he doing? And he's just sitting in his car looking out.
I think I knew it was.
I didn't. And then she looks
there's
at
a
him.
Baby, there's a baby right there and a female. His wife
I don't
and
know.
kid.
You're concerned that people sit and look inside her butt.
What? They're outside. They were outside. She was like watering the plants or something.
Okay. And then
we see the boiling water inside, though, in the background. That's a constant.
Yeah, so Wendy grabs the baby, smiles, sees Gordon, and does like a small smile, and she walks inside. Yeah. And yeah, so this is one of those setups in their house where as soon as you open the door, the stove is right there facing the door.
Yep.
And Gordon gets out of his car finally, flowers in hand. He has a basket with him.
And you see Oreos and peanut butter. This plays an important part in the movie.
We hear Wendy. She's like, oh my gosh, you brought me flowers. What's the occasion? And then there's like, you hear smashing and crying, and that's it.
She's like, Gordon, no!
And then
it's the start of the Monday. And we're going to go through this. This is day one.
So Monday, everybody's at the hospital. The crew, Gordon's crew, they're suited up in like hazmat suits. Some of them have masks on. And everybody's just kind of spreading out, seeing what they're going to do. And we start meeting a lot of those guys. We
meet Hank, everybody. Yeah.
There's Hank, Phil is back, Jeff, and Mike. And
Jeff's the new guy. He is Gordon's nephew.
So we start getting a little bit of background information. They've all known each other.
But we first see Hank comes in, and he's
an asshole.
He comes in like, hey, put your mask on or whatever, something.
To Jeff.
Yeah, well, no, to Phil, because we see the first interaction between the two.
Oh, yeah.
Because something happens and he's being a dickhead.
Well, Hank tells Phil Amy says hi, and we don't know who the fuck is Amy yet.
Yeah. So they're automatically, and at this point, I didn't know if they're just fucking with each other, which they are, but was it like to be an asshole or just to be friendly? Bit of an asshole. But it was. I think that too. I think he was just a real POS.
Yeah.
When it came to that.
Yeah, and then Phil just ignores him. We meet Jeff, who's Gordon's nephew, and Mike are working together.
Yeah.
Jeff's trying to take this, just have a good time. And they're like, dude, you can't play that music.
It's like his first job.
Yeah, so he's trying to play some loud music. And
Hank rolls in.
Yeah, and he's like, hey, you can't do that because your music has vibrations. That'll loosen up the chemicals and the asbestos in the air. He calls it
like spooge or splooge.
And he's like, it's gonna fucking come in your nose, and you can't be doing this shit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was really serious about that or he just didn't like his music.
No, because he's like, well, play like Yanni or something like classical. And there is actually a point to that, but you can't play any music because that vibration does shake loose the stuff, and you don't want to breathe in any of that crap.
Yeah, so they start spreading out. They're working. And then we see them again get together during their break time. And this is when Phil tells them that there's a bonus if they can get the job done.
Yeah.
And Hank and everybody's surprised that their fucking deadline is 1 week. And everybody's like, dude, this place is huge. 1 week is not enough. And they're like, yeah, but there's a fat bonus. And they're like, okay. And the security comes up, is talking to them, BSing. And they start asking questions like, hey, when did this place shut down? Why did it shut down?
Yeah.
And he said that in the 80s, there was...
And the security guard was there, right?
Yeah. And the security said that in the 80s, a lot of places closed down.
Because of budget cuts.
budget cuts. They were calling it the institutionalization.
But this is where we meet Mike, essentially, that he's a smart guy, that he was going to be a lawyer. Because he starts getting into the story about
Patricia Willard, the scandal of 84. So he gives him a little rundown. They call it, what was it, the satanic horror panic or whatever?
Satanic panic, yeah.
Yeah, so Patricia was committed by her parents with the case of manic depression. And in there, they were starting a new type of therapy, which was repressed therapy. So they would like hypnotize him, take him under.
Yeah, supposed suppressed memories.
And they would have him like dig into their core and find whatever it is that was causing their traumas and issues that they were having. And for Patricia in specific.
And it goes really dark, so we won't get into it too much, but he captivates everybody. Everybody gets really quiet.
And
essentially, the grandparents were raping her and then forcing her to have babies that they would sacrifice and then like eat the body parts. In the
satanic ritual.
And which turns out he turns the story around. He's like, which turns out not to be true at all. She tried suing them, but they countersued because they found in the documents that she was a virgin. So none of that actually happened.
So there was a real book that I saw when I was doing my research on this. And the author ended up coming out and saying it was all planted. So the story that he's talking about is real.
Right. And that part's accurate. So this happened amongst a bunch of these stories, which plus the budget cuts closed these facilities, which thank God, these really were inhumane at one point. I think they started it out good and
good
honest.
Intentions.
Yes, but quickly turned into something dark and sinister.
And then we start seeing some of Gordon's odd behavior. He's listening to the story. He has his phone out with home on the screen, like he's gonna dial. And he finally tells Mike to stop telling the story.
Yeah, he's like, Jesus Christ, stop.
But we never see him if he actually called. He was like hesitating calling home.
No, and you could tell something's bothering him.
Yeah, and then
obviously we get it because of the story. You hear Gordon's wife like, Gordon, no. So you can tell they had a fight of some sort in that phone, looking at his phone. He's stressed because he does eventually call her and like, Wendy, we need to talk.
Yeah. And so the next thing that we go to, this is where we learn about Mike's background. He was in school. That's why he reads a lot. And then Phil comes and talks to Gordon and he brings up like, hey, like, he doesn't think, it's a big job again. They only have 1 week to do it.
Hank's a liability.
He doesn't think Hank's cut out for the job.
Which he has a hard on for him because Hank stole his girl, Amy.
Mm-hmm. And so he knows a guy.
Yeah, and he wants to bring him in. And Gordon's like, dude, no, Hank's fine. Get over yourself. We're doing this job with Hank.
Yeah, and the other guy's supposed to have more experience, but they're like, no. So everybody goes back to work. Then we learn and Monday that Jeff has a fear of darkness. I can't remember what he calls that phobia.
Nyctophobia?
Okay. So we learned that he has a phobia for this. So Mike goes to, like, the breaker went out. So Mike went to go fix it. And when he did, he walks past the room that's supposed to be for staff only. And he walks in with his curiosity and background. He finds patient files.
Yeah, he's going through boxes and files and he finds tapes.
Yeah, and he's like, what the hell? So he starts setting him up. So we fucking slowly see Mike throughout the movie finding an excuse that he can to escape doing their work that they're supposed to do in 1 week to go listen to this tape.
He's listening, and then we eventually see him after hours too listening. He goes back. But he's listening to the tapes, and this is where we first hear of one of the personalities of Mary Hobbs, Princess, who lives in the Tongue?
Yeah, so Monday's the first day that Mike stays behind. We see it's dark outside. Everybody's leaving.
But
they're showing.
But before that, they go to lunch, right? Again?
No, it's the end of the day. They leave.
Oh, okay.
And we see each of the guys doing their normal thing after hours with their family, their friends, whatever they're doing.
And yeah, Phil's at the bar. Gordon is sitting outside his house. Hank is sitting there getting bitched at by Amy. And then Jeff, we don't see what he does.
No, but then we see Mike. It's after hours.
And he's listening to the
there
tapes.
with the tapes.
Which, would you be chilling
No.
after hours in that?
No.
I wouldn't, I'd be freaked out of the facility, right? But I'd be more freaked out that people are coming in and something bad would happen.
Yeah, because it's dark. Like, they have issues with, like, yeah, there's security, but they have issues with break-in. It's not healthy. Like, there's all these chemicals and things floating around.
Not to mention, the stuff you're listening to is a little
creepy.
Yeah.
And there's not even electricity. They have a generator outside running.
Yeah, and he's listening, and again, the tapes, we meet Princess, who is in Mary Hobbs's mind. What is she, the mouth?
Yeah, so first we hear, and it starts off with Mary, and the doctor is asking about Christmas, and she doesn't remember, and then the voice changes, and it sounds like a little kid.
Well, she's like, can I talk to Princess? Or the doctor's like, can I talk to Princess?
Yeah, and it changes to a kid. It sounds like a kid, but the name is Princess. And so the doctor's asking Princess what happened. We learned that Mary got a doll from her mom, and they can't find it. And then so Mary and her brother Peter are playing hide and seek.
Yeah.
But nobody knows where it was. And then we see the one scene that we see is
and again,
Gordon.
he keeps asking what happened in December.
And in between, we see, so that's all that we see for Monday.
Yeah, and then it turns into day 2, and this is Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. On Tuesday.
And you can still see Mike. He's still obsessed with the tapes. He keeps trying to get back.
We also see Gordon, who he's dozing off, and he hears a voice that says, "You can hear me." And the guys wake him up. So he's dozing off on and out throughout the job.
Yeah.
And then we see Hank. He's off to doing whatever task he has to do for the day. And this is where we see he finds a coin on the ground.
Yeah, he's in the basement doing his job, and then he finds a coin on the ground, and then he finds another coin, and he's looking at the years. He's like 1883. He's like, oh shit, yeah. And then he keeps grabbing them, and it leads him to this wall. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, he's getting these coins out of the wall, and then he's like, fuck, I'm gonna take this brick out. He takes the brick out, and then the coins fall out like it's a lotto, like he hit the jackpot. Mm-hmm. And it's just falling out, like hundreds of coins.
But we also see rings that come out of this hole.
We don't know yet. And then it pans into the little hole. And what it was the incinerator that they would burn the bodies.
Eyes
in the morgue.
Nuts.
Yeah, which he realizes because he's grabbing it, and we see teeth. He's picking through.
Yeah.
He's like, gold teeth. Hell yeah. Put in his pocket.
He didn't give a fuck.
Rings. Yeah, exactly. But he was stoked. But then he gets a call on his walkie-talkie.
They tell him to turn around.
Phil. He's like, hey, we need you. Get up here. And he's like, oh, okay. So he's kind of tucking it. He has nowhere to put this stuff. So he
hides them.
Well, he's not hiding it, but he's leaving it right there. He's going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it implies he's going to come back.
And then it's lunchtime. We learned that Gordon brought food for everyone, and Mike didn't come out. So they're really trying to get this job. Everybody has to come out at the same time for breaks.
Well, for safety.
And everybody has to come out at the same time for lunch and everything.
And they keep calling for Mike. No answer. And he's just consumed with the tapes.
Yeah, and so this is where we learned that Princess lives in the tongue because she's always talking. And we meet Bill. The second voice this time.
Billy, and it's a boy, and it's clearly Mary and Billy's voice.
Yeah.
And he lives in the eyes because he sees everything.
Yeah, and the doctor asks, he's like, what about Simon? Where does he live? And there's no answer.
And they're like, well, no, we don't talk about him. He's sleeping.
Yeah, and so we see the guys back out having their lunch. And then finally, Mike comes out finally. And Gordon reminds him, he's like, hey, you have to come out on lunch on time with everybody else. And just plain dumb, reading about what were the reasons why some of those patients were committed to the hospital.
Oh, he found a ledger of all the patients, and they're like, where'd you find this? He's like, I just found it. And some of the reasons were kind of crazy.
One of them was like mortified pride. And he asks, he's like, what do you have to do now to get committed? And Mike says, you would have to kill someone. And Jeff starts acting dumb, and he's like, oh, what about, like, I don't know, lobotomy or something. He starts drooling. So Mike grabs him, and he has a serious moment.
Hey, just a second. I'm getting a phone call. We'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Trying to ship me out to Kalispell, Montana. Not happening. Short notice. That's crazy. Did that once before. Anyways, we're back. Jeff is drooling. He's making fun of it. He's like, oh, what am I doing? What do you have to do to get in the hospital?
Yeah, and Mike
grabs him aggressively.
Yeah, what did he have in his hand? I can't remember what it was.
He had a chopstick.
Oh, yeah, he had a chopstick and grabs him. And he goes into the details of what goes into a lobotomy.
Yeah, how to perform a lobotomy. And what you see, Gordon is intently watching.
Yeah.
And he's like serious. And you get the thing like, hey, man, cut it out. But Phil's like, hey, man, he's just joking. Let him run its course. And he does. He's talking about it, and he's getting closer and closer to the eye, and he's finally putting pressure on where to go, and then he lets go.
Yeah, and the one thing
and Jeff's freaked out. Hank's like, damn, brother, you're going, that was awesome.
And the one thing that Mike says was that the only side effect is the patient would get a black eye, and the treatment are sunglasses.
Yeah, prescription was a pair of sunglasses.
So people wouldn't see. And then back inside, the guys are like, damn, Mike, you're really smart. Maybe you should have stuck to school instead of doing this type of work. And then Hank makes a comment about gambling. So he knows a lot about gambling. He knows that dude who won a lot of money. That's just kind of his outside interest outside of work. And essentially, Hank tells Jeff, like, this is a job. It is what it is. But think ahead of time and have an exit plan. You know, don't make it this be your life. Everybody in here has an exit plan, except for your Uncle Gordon. This is his business. He's really invested in it.
He's like, Mike's going to be a lawyer. Phil, he's got his own thing. He's like, I feel bad for old Uncle Gordy because this is his life. It was his life in Ireland or whatever, and it's his life here now.
Yeah. And so he tells him, he's like, just make sure you have like something to do. And we briefly see Mike. He's like, whatever he's doing in some nook or corner in the building, he finds what looks like fresh flowers.
Yeah, the flowers that Gordon had. Now, why would Gordon bring it with him back after killing his wife?
Because Wendy said, fuck your flowers, man.
Well, yeah, when you're dead.
But we don't know that yet.
But so it's just a little weird that he finds it, though. It's fresh flowers.
Yeah. The other thing that Hank tells Jeff is the last few months, he's been noticing some cracks in Gordon. Like Gordon, he's
starting to crack.
He's like this, like you said, he's very calm. He's never lost his cool. But lately, you know, maybe he's really stressed. He's like, there's a new baby. And then Mike was like, yeah, Hank, maybe when you and Amy have a kid of your own, like, you'll know that type of stress.
Well, he's like, man, that type of stress, he's like, well, it should be the happiest time of his life. And they're like, well, yeah, maybe if you have kids with Amy that you would know and experience it. He's like, what? I ain't having no kids with her. I'm just, you know, sleeping with her to get to Phil.
Yeah, which I was like, asshole. And then we see Gordon on the phone again. He calls Wendy this time. But it's a one-sided conversation. He's like, hey, we need to talk. And then that's the end. And the scene makes it look like she hung up on him. And then that's it. And then Gordon is hanging out by a window. He sees Phil outside talking to some guys.
Well, Gordon is trying, again, he's talking to his wife. It seems like he's talking to his wife. He's like, Wendy. I forgot what they're talking about, but they're talking.
Well, he says that they need to talk.
Yeah, we need to talk. And then they hang up, but he's looking out the window and he sees Phil, and Phil's with two guys, right? Mm-hmm. Well, it looks like a drug deal. It looks kind of sketchy, but we're, I think, interpreting it through the eyes of Gordon. So in reality, I think what happened is Phil explains it. He's like, hey, man, these guys aren't going to come back. They're graffiti guys. And he's like, they're not going to come back and bother us anymore.
Yeah. So at the end of
Yeah, but it looks like a drug deal.
and at night we see Hank come back to the hospital for the coins that he found.
Yeah.
So he's in there when he's supposed to be by himself. He goes and finds a wall where they were, and he keeps digging at it. And this time, more of that stuff comes out: glasses, fake eyeballs.
Yeah, he's like, whoa, fake eyes. This is crazy.
Yeah, and he finds in there like a small pick, looks like, comes out of the hole as well.
Well, no, yeah, it's like an ice pick or a pick they use for lobotomy. He's like, whoa, this is cool. And he puts it in his pocket.
Yeah, and he puts everything and he starts heading out. He's done. He's listening to music. He has like a CD player on
listening
him.
like jazz.
And then he gets to a part of the building where the hallway divides into two, and one side is for staff only, the other side is for patients. So he goes down the patient's end. And as he's going down there, it's really dark. He just has a flashlight, and he sees an empty tub of peanut butter, which is like nowadays peanut butter tub.
Which now, if you watch the movie like I did the second time, you put two and two together, you see that peanut butter GIF. It's brand new GIF container, empty, but you see that in Gordon's bag when he gets out of his car to go into the house.
Yeah, and even Hank is like, what the hell? He picks it up and he hears noise. And he starts walking fast, and then this is where he starts seeing...
He also goes down the patients instead of staff hallway. Why did he do that?
I don't know.
Because you're not supposed to. Is that the way out? I don't know.
I don't know. He turns around at one point, and you see, like, the shadow of a person behind him. And he starts running towards the exit. And as he keeps running, you just see him run into something, but we don't know what.
And he has a flashlight. He looks up. He's like, birds, wasn't it?
At one point, yeah, there's a bird flying, but then he keeps running.
Yeah, birds. But he stops right there. And then he turns around. He's like, what are you doing here? And that's the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're in day 3, Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting work pretty quickly. Now we see Gordon and Phil, and they're like, God damn it, no sign of Hank. What's going on? Right?
Yeah, so they take a break. They go and they call. They're trying to figure out who to get a hold of. No one's heard from him.
Yeah.
So Phil's like, screw it, I'll call Amy, his ex. And
well, they end up working. They're working, they're halfway, and they're like taking a break up on the roof. And this is where they talk about calling Amy, because they're like, we have no way of getting a hold of him. What the hell? And he's like, all right, I know her number. And then calls her up. He's the only one. We don't hear Amy. He's the only one on the phone. So it really sets him up to be a red herring.
Yeah, and he's like, what? What? Ha ha ha, and laughs like, okay, no fucking surprise.
And he's like, of course.
And he's like, I'll call you back. So Amy tells them that Hank stopped by her house last night, packed his car, and he told her that he found his meal packet and left to Miami for casino school. Meal ticket.
Casino school. It's weird.
Yeah. And so this was Hank's plan. Take that money that he found and go gamble.
Yeah.
Essentially. And Mike's pissed, and he's like, dude, like, tells Mike to call someone else.
Phil's pissed, and he's like, okay, go get Craig or whatever on the phone, see if he's still available. Gordon's like, no, fuck that. Right?
Yeah, and Gordon, he's like, there's something that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And he's like, Phil, like, you clearly don't like Hank, and I saw you talking to those two guys yesterday, so, like, what did you do? And Phil's like, what? Nothing.
Yeah, what are you implying? And they're face to face, but then we hear something, right? Or something happens.
He leaves, and Gordon, like, heads back downstairs. He looks down at his hands, and we notice that he has blood on his hands.
Yeah, and his fingernails.
Yeah, and then, so Phil's having a conversation with another one of the guys, and they mentioned that Phil's concerned about Gordon. He's tired. Apparently, the last 2 jobs, they lost them to other guys, and we see Gordon outside.
The last 2 jobs, it's like the Yankee company or whatever.
Yeah.
And their rivalry, and they don't want this happen again, and Phil's worried about that.
So now we see Gordon, he's outside by the cemetery, sitting on that tree.
Yeah.
And he's calling Wendy again, and she's not answering. And he's just on the phone. He's like, can you please, like, forgive me? And you can tell he's really like upset emotionally. Jeff comes down and he's like, hey, trying to like cheer him up. He's like, I got you. We're all here for you. We're going to get the job done. Like, don't worry about it.
Right.
He's like, were you on the phone with Aunt Wendy? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, how's she's doing? He's like, oh, you know. And he's like holding back from crying. You can tell in this scene. He's very upset.
And Jeff's just like, thanks for giving me the job, man. I really appreciate it. I'm not going to let you down.
Yeah. And then we see Mike. He's back with the tapes again. And then we learn that Mary, the patient that he's been listening to, her story, she has scars on her chest and she doesn't remember where they came from. She thinks that they're from falling from a bike.
Yeah. And which could have very well been the case.
And he asks about the voices and Mary has no memory of them. Then Billy kicks in. And again, what happened in Christmas? Nobody knows anything about Christmas. We don't want to talk about it.
Let me talk to Simon. And
he doesn't want to.
Simon's sleeping.
Mm-hmm. And then it's the end of the day, it looks like. And we see Gordon and Phil are having a conversation. And Phil's like, dude, take a shower. Wash the asbestos off of you.
Yeah.
And
hey, another thing worth noting. Sorry, we blew right by it. We seen a room in the beginning that had a collage of stuff. And what they call that therapy?
Art therapy.
Art therapy to make the person remember what they were or what made them happy.
Oh.
That plays a part too. I wanted to bring that up. It just popped in my head. That's kind of a crucial part of the story.
Oh, yeah, that was during the tour initially, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was an isolated room.
Yeah, so Gordon opens up to Phil and he's like, I did something really stupid. I hit Wendy.
They're finishing for the day.
Yeah, he's like, it was the same day when they got the job. He was excited and he wanted to celebrate and she accidentally spilled boiling water all over his leg and he just like didn't know what took over him and slapped her. And so he's been sleeping in a motel.
Or he says he's been.
Yeah, he says he's been sleeping in a motel and he's like, are you going to tell anyone? And Phil's like, man, like, I don't know. Like, it's fine. And Gordon agrees, finally. He's like, yeah, call Craig, the other guy, and tell him to come and help us to finish the job.
Yeah, he can come in Friday.
And then we get to learn that we actually see Gordon is sleeping in his car. And he hears the same voice calling to him again.
Yeah.
And it's like images or flashing of that day that he arrived after he got the job.
Yeah.
We see his wife, the boiling water again on the stove. And you hear the voice ask, do you know who I am? And then it really focuses on the basket that Gordon was carrying with the peanut butter, the flowers. And then the voice says, do it, Gordon.
Do it, Gordon. Do it.
And we see, that he's really not in a motel. The van is just parked outside the hospital overnight.
Yeah.
And Gordon, his leg, so he really did get burned. And it's infected and gross.
He's pouring like an antiseptic or whatever to clean the area, and it hurts. It's burning. He's like, ah! And he's pouring on the wound to clean it. And that's the end of the night. Mm-hmm. But then we see in the morning, early in the morning, it sets it up that Phil, he's parked in his truck and he's smoking a joint, trying to smoke. He sparks it up, and then all of a sudden, because Gordon's living there, but Phil still doesn't know that, he rolls up. He's like, oh, early riser, huh? He's like, yeah, it makes both of us. What's going on?
Couldn't sleep.
And then he's like, you doing all right, Gordon? What's on your mind? He's like, I want to go home.
Yeah.
Which, dude, go home then. But Phil's like, hey, I'm going to get started. I'm going to go inside.
Yeah.
But
and he tells him that Craig's going to be there tomorrow, Friday. So Phil's worried. He's like, okay, during the day, he pulls Mike aside. He's like, hey, I need to talk to you. And he's like, something's really wrong with Gordon. He's breaking. We need to get him out of here. I'm captain now. I'm taking over. We're going to send him home. And he told him that he hit his wife.
Yeah.
And they can't have Bill find out about it because they're going to lose the job if Bill finds out that Gordon's not doing okay.
Yeah. And then all this, Gordon's hearing all this. Or supposedly this conversation's happening. I don't know.
He's at the bottom of the stairs and he's hearing this conversation. And
then he comes up. He's like, oh, what are you talking about? And they're like, oh, we're talking about how well Jeff's doing and how great he's doing. And meanwhile, Jeff's tool that's picking up, shucking the fiber off the ground, unplugs. So he has to go, and he's scared of the dark. So he runs down there and he plugs it back in, then runs. While they're having their conversation with Gordon, and they're all three meeting, and they start arguing, he goes up the stairs, and who does he see?
Motherfucking for Hank.
Hank. Yeah, he's standing there and he's mumbling, just looking out the window. He's like, Hank, dude,
And guess what
everybody's
he's
looking
wearing?
for you. What?
Sunglasses.
Yeah, he's wearing sunglasses. And so he's like, Hank, dude, everybody thought you went to Miami. What are you doing here? And then you just see Hank, he kind of turns, he's got his glasses on. He's like, what are you doing here? Kind of the last words he said before. And he's like, what the hell? He's like, Jeff's like, okay, Hank. Because Hank's finger all of a sudden has blood on it.
He taps the window and there's blood left behind.
And Jeff's like, hey, I'm going to go get some help. But he has to turn back around and run because he doesn't want to pass him. So he ends up running. And at this point, Gordon and Phil are going at it. Like they're pissed at each other. And they're talking about, again, Hank missing and Phil potentially doing something to him.
Yeah.
And Phil's like, what the fuck? He's in Miami. Everybody heard it.
Yeah.
And he's like, nobody heard that shit. I don't know if that conversation happens there, but they're having a heated conversation. All of a sudden, Jeff rolls up. He's like, dude, Hank's here. And they're like, no, he's not. He's in fucking Miami. What the fuck? And as he's saying that, they hear like the roof. Someone's running on top of the roof.
Yeah, so they turn around and they're like, what the hell? So
Gordon's like, hey, Phil, you're with me. Mike, you're with Jeff. And Phil's like, oh, fuck, I am. Jeff, you're with me. Come on. And he went downstairs while Gordon and Mike are upstairs.
Yeah, and then the fucking interesting thing, so they're supposed to go look for him. Jeff and Phil split at one point, and Phil tells Jeff to go down into the tunnels and look, and he's gonna take a different route. Well, Mike and Gordon also split.
Well, Jeff's afraid of the dark, and Phil's like, hey, man, stay here. Don't move for anything. You stay right here. I'm gonna go check these tunnels.
But Jeff is ultimately the one who makes it through the tunnel, remember?
Nope, Phil does. Phil's walking through with his flashlight. He's walking through that tunnel. He starts hearing stuff. And then
one
mumbling,
of the tunnels.
He's hearing it, and all this, Gordon and Mike are doing something, but Mike they end up
back
splitting.
To the tape again.
Yeah, he goes back to the tape. And then Gordon does eventually you see him find Hank, and Hank's now declothed, just in his underwear, again mumbling, what are you doing here? And then that closes that. But Jeff, he's yelling for Phil. The power goes out. The generator gives. So now Jeff's freaking out. He's like, oh no, the lights are going out. So he starts running because he doesn't have a flashlight. He starts running, and then the hallway's turning dark. And then he ends up screaming, and then he gets like some powder or dust in his mouth. He's choking and he's running. Again, freaked out, and he ends up making it to the truck, sitting there, and then you see him eat an Oreo.
Well, yeah, and then in this, Mike also, too, he's tapes that plane, so he goes out finally to check on the generator and gets it going again.
He fires it back up, and now he doesn't even hear this part. The tape starts running, and it's Simon talking, right? Someone's talking. I think it's Simon. We're introduced.
Yeah. We also see...
and Gordon walkies Phil, and he's like, hey, Phil, I'm up in the...
somewhere. He found Hank.
He's in the room.
He's
Hank,
like... he says.
Yeah, he's like, I found Hank. I'm in the room, or whatever, the corridor or whatever. He's like, okay, on the third floor. And Phil's like, I'll be up.
And I think at this point, Phil had already found Hank. So he's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
He's like, Gordon, I'll be right there.
Yeah, so when the generator kicks back on, it's Simon on. And the doctor's like, gosh.
Hold on. We'll be right back. Oh my God, we're back. They're really trying to get me to go to Kalispell. If you're listening and you work with me, I would love to go to Kalispell, but man, this is way too last minute. I did that once before. I can't turn my life upside down this particular week. Sorry.
What do you got going on this week?
Man, we got plans I don't want to divulge, but it's Project Chancho. don't like it?
Stupid.
That's what we're calling it. Project Cha-Cha. Chanchito. Sorry to cut you off. Jesus. Hopefully I don't get any more interruptions. But we were in the heat of it. What were you talking about?
Simone kicked in.
Oh, Simon. This is huge. This is an important part that plays into my theory.
Okay. So the doctor's like, Billy has talked a lot about you. He's like, tell me about fucking Christmas, man. Nobody will tell me what's happened on Christmas.
Yeah.
And Simon is like, use your imagination, doctor.
So I do want to hold on for a second. I do want to say, and I don't care in my in my notes, and it doesn't say it is, but that fucking doctor sounds like David Caruso, Phil.
It does.
I can't get over it, but it's played by a dude named Lonnie. But I swear it's David Caruso.
He has a very creepy voice in this movie.
Who?
Simon.
Well, I'm not saying Simon's David Caruso. I'm saying the doctor is David Caruso.
Oh, you're saying
tapes.
the doctor is David Caruso?
Yeah, but it's a Lonnie like Hanks or something.
Oh.
But anyways, sorry. We were introduced to Simon.
Yes. And Simon, he tells him to use imagination. Essentially, Peter was very naughty, and they were playing hide and seek, and Peter scared Mary in the dark, and she fell on her porcelain doll, and it cut her up. So those scars that she thinks are from a bike accident were really because she fell on this doll, and it broke, and it cut her up. So she needed someone to help her, and this thing thought to defend her. And so he introduced himself to Mary and told her to cut up Peter. So Mary got a doll for Christmas. So Peter got a knife. We hadn't mentioned it before.
Plays into the wounded now. She was fragile already, but now she got wounded. This opened up the opportunity for Simon to infiltrate.
Yeah, so Simon told Mary to cut Peter up real bad. And Simon also told Mary to cut her parents up so they wouldn't get mad at her because she was going to cut up Peter. And there was a lot of blood. It's all you hear. And while this is playing, we see Gordon at one of those art therapy rooms. But instead of being patients' pictures, it was his own personal family pictures that he had in his van.
Showed his wedding. It showed the christening of his daughter. Just a bunch of his pictures with the guys, showing how close knit they were.
Yeah, and then at this point, Phil walks in and sees Gordon with all these pictures up on the wall.
And he's like, whoa, what the hell, Gordon?
Yeah, and he's like, what the fuck? And this is where he uses, so at the same time while this is happening, Jeff is outside, like you mentioned, and he's calling Gordon on the walkie, and he's like, hey, sorry.
I'm out by the van.
Yeah, I'll be out here. Yeah. I need help. And that's all we see of Phil is just in the room, like realizing how gone Gordon essentially is.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then we see Jeff outside again. And we just hear footsteps approaching Jeff. And Jeff is like, hey, sorry, like all the lights went out. I panicked. I'm sorry. Didn't know what to do. So I came out here. And you see put up his hand, like to hug someone or something.
Yeah, and then it just turns black.
It just turns black, that's it. Yeah. And then we roll into Friday.
And now, Friday, and this is the final day. So now it's quiet, and we see a big pool of blood in the middle of, like, it looks like the main floor where Mike and Jeff were always working. There's a big old pool of blood, and it's really quite quiet and eerie, and now we're kind of going through the place, right?
Yeah, and then we see you get the roll that one of those tapes is just playing on its own, but there's no more sound coming in. We reached the end of the tapes. Yeah. One thing we forgot to mention, so this movie is called Session 9. This tape, the last one they played is Session 9.
Yeah.
And then on the walkie-talkie, we hear a voice, and Gordon's in his van, and there's a voice saying, come back, come back.
Yeah, hey, we need you, come back.
And so Gordon picks up the walkie, and you hear a voice on the other end saying, hey, we found the one responsible. So Gordon goes back inside the hospital again.
And then we see him rolling up on Hank on the ground, and he's covered in the tarp.
And at this point, too, Craig also showed up to help him out with the job.
Well, Craig's rolling up. He's having a good time. He's like, fuck yeah, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And so we do see Hank laying there. He's like, whoa, who did this to you? I'm going to help you. And then all of a sudden we see Phil, and he's like, hey, man. Like, he's all calm. And
but we never see we know it's Phil, but did you notice he was dark? He had like a shadow cast over him.
I didn't notice the shadow. But what's he telling him? He's like, you did this to him. You did this. And he's like, I didn't do this. Wake up. Wake up, Gordon. It's time to fucking wake up.
He's like, take a really good look at him. And so, yeah, Hank was laying there.
So Phil was like the voice of reason for him. And pretty much the ghost of Phil was like, dude, still trying to reason with him, which I think was Gordon's psyche, was like that Phil was the version of that. And he's like, what the hell? And he's holding Hank, and then he stands up. And this is where the dude rolls in, still happy. And he looks down and he's like, whoa, what the hell? And then instantly Gordon grabs him, starts choking him, getting him to the ground. He pulls out the ice pick that was in Hank's eye.
Sorry, Hank.
And he pulls it out, pulls Hank's head up, and then
Hank is still alive through all of this.
Hank's bouncing. Yeah, he got lobotomized. His head bounces on the ground.
His eyes are the only thing turning.
Yeah, and then Gordon continues to put the pick into Craig's eye and lobotomizes him.
Yeah, and at the same time, he's hearing the voice saying, do it.
Do it, Gordon. Do it. And then now that happens, right? And now it stops, but now we hear Simon, and he does his last speech.
And he said, no, and the other thing that Simon says is, he said, I did it because Mary let him. He said, they always do. And then and then the movie does a final, like, walkthrough of what really happened to everybody.
Yeah, they always let him in, which proves my theory of the possession is actually true, because he's like, I prey on the wounded, or I prey on the weak and the wounded. They always let me in. And that's the end of it. But we see a collage or whatever of the movie. We see it happening. We see Hank. Then we see Jeff laying there. Then we see Phil. And then Mike just laying there up against the wall. And they're all bloody mess.
Yeah, so Mike, when he was coming back inside from turning on the generator, is when Gordon attacked him. And it does another road down of... Oh, and then we finally see Gordon calls Wendy one last time. But this time we see that his phone is completely broken. It's just like the piece, plastic
it's hollowed
piece.
Out, yeah.
And he's apologizing, and all he wants to do is go home and hold his family.
Yeah, he wants it back, but clearly it's not coming back.
No.
But so, yeah, and that's the end of the movie. We end with I prey on the weak and the wounded.
Yeah.
Hence, that's why this is a possession movie. Booyah.
One thing, at one point there was a prequel plan to this movie.
Really?
Which I would have been interested to see. It wasn't going to be about them. It was about Mary. And
I like the as is. This is a good standalone.
It was supposed to be, so the writers, they planned it about focusing on Mary and that Christmas Day and what happened. And they brought this story, how she went from her childhood up until her point at the hospital. And they brought the pitch to Focus, who now owns USA Films.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, we have this pitch. And they're like, it's our property. And they're like, yeah, well, we made this movie like a long time ago. And then it was part of your company. And it came down to legal terms. And they're like, they don't allow filmmakers to make sequels or prequels to their movies. So, nay.
Good. So after a long, lengthy discussion on this movie, has your opinion on the movie changed?
Yeah, it has.
It has? For the good or the bad?
For the good. I appreciate it more.
You appreciate it more?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Has your theory changed?
No.
What? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Ay, cabrón. Mine hasn't either.
He's still possessed.
Yep. Now, what would you rank this movie?
I would say a 3.
Give it a 3.
Yeah. Yeah, 2.53. You're gonna be like, make up your fucking mind.
Yeah, make
Is
your
it a
mind.
2.5 or a 3? I'd say a 3.
Yeah, I give it a 3. It was entertaining.
Yeah.
Does it blow my socks off?
No.
No, it does not. But it has all the fixings to be pretty good, and I was entertained. Not my cup of tea. It's your psychological thriller.
It's
not for me.
okay. It's not. I've seen other.
Like I said, I called it. I called the shot. I knew exactly what was happening. So I was like, oh, okay.
Thank you for not telling me.
Yeah. I thought I did.
I think
weren't
you
listening to
blurted
me.
it. I was interested in what was happening.
You were locked in. That's how I'm surprised you only give it a 3. Because you're pretty locked in.
I don't know. I feel like some of the scenes were a little lengthy. But I know. Yeah. I don't know. It was okay. It was an okay, pretty good psychological thriller. Not my favorite, but
cool.
Entertaining nonetheless.
I like it. And then, yeah, should we get into Vienna's review corner?
Do you have a favorite kill?
You don't really see any. I guess I'd have to say Craig, innocent Craig, just rolling up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was kind of the only.
I'd have to say Hank. You'd have to use your imagination, though.
Yeah.
The poor guy just rolled around for the rest of the week with a fucking ice pick in his eyeball.
Yeah, he's forever
Uh-huh.
slow.
What do you think happened to Gordon at the end?
Either he killed himself or he
He's now in jail.
Now
Or in
incarcerated.
another institutionalized.
Yeah, he got institutionalized or incarcerated.
No, he's on somebody's tapes.
Yeah. But all right, should we take a quick break and then get back to Review Corner?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll be right back.
Vienna's Review Corner. Sometimes she watches, sometimes she won't. Sometimes she's hyped, but most times she's mad. Take it away, Vienna.
Welcome back, everyone, to Vienna's Review Corner. Hello, Camila.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Good. I'm trying to fix the mic. Okay.
You good?
Yeah.
Perfect. Session 9. How did you feel about this movie?
I didn't know how to feel. I don't think I really understood it.
You didn't understand it? You don't feel... Do you have any opinions about it from whatever you did understood?
What was your interpretation of this movie?
I don't really know. I didn't really know what to think of it.
Was it just all over the place for you?
Yeah. I don't know. Just like there would be like loops and then like things that just confused me at certain times. So I didn't really understand.
It's a lot happening, huh?
Yeah.
I see it. I can see it. I think that's what was Richard's first initial impression the first time.
Mm-hmm. I think I'll have to like go back and rewatch it when I'm older because I don't really understand it now.
Okay.
Once I mature more.
More life experiences.
Yeah.
Overall, for the movie, for the reviews, what did you find? Did you find it? We read that it has a cult following after released. Are there people in favor, or how do they feel about it?
From what I received, a lot of people liked it.
Okay.
Yeah, people were saying it's very underrated and just like a bunch of stuff like that. Someone gave it 3 stars and said, crumbling domesticity mirrored in a decrepit, poisoned estate and thwarted masculinity spun out like analog tape.
Damn.
Mm-hmm. Someone gave it 2 stars and said, David Caruso's acting is like asbestos. People thought it was good back then until everyone realized that long exposure to it could cause a number of life-threatening illnesses. That's why he stopped acting in 2012.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying.
You don't like his acting?
He's one dimension.
Someone gave it 5 stars and said, I personally enjoy this type of horror subgenre myself. Anyone can create a house full of teenagers who do stupid stuff and get slashed up with all the gore they can show, but it takes talent to write a gripping story laden with horror and fear.
I think it's fair all the way around. Like, those movies are great too. They're fun, but this was fun too in its own way.
Yeah. Someone gave it 7 out of 10 and said, this film is more of a psychological horror or thriller film than a true horror film. No slasher action here, but plenty of foreboding chills. The setting is great, and so are the performances.
So that's what made it a horror, is its eerie setting, but also just the sheer, like, intensity and drama of it. Like, It was like a psychological thriller horror, though. Horror is heavily in this movie. It's in a mental hospital, for Christ's sakes, an abandoned mental hospital.
The environment gave it like that scary feeling.
Exactly.
Someone said, horror nerds love to claim this is a secret underrated masterpiece. They're wrong. It sucks.
Yeah. Masterpiece is going really far.
Yeah.
Scary is going kind of far too. Again, I think our desensitized brains here at Horror Cinema Obsession,
you're acting edgy.
Here at Horror Cinema Obsession, I feel like it's kind of lost on us, because that was kind of the listeners too. And you guys are great. I'm not trying to discredit you either, but like you were saying, oh, this is super scary. This is super scary. I didn't get that scary vibe. I wasn't like terrified of this.
I like psychological thrillers, but this one, it wasn't my taste. I don't know.
For me, psychological thrillers, if done right, fucks my brain up, so I don't like them. But this one did not do that for me.
Yeah, I was just kind of stuck at some parts. I don't know.
Yeah.
Someone gave it 3 stars and said, imagine wearing headphones in an abandoned mental hospital at nighttime. Just the absolute worst idea.
Dude, Hank was a stud.
I don't know. It might have been good to draw out the
eeriness
and the maybe creepy silence or the ghost cries.
I don't know. I want to have all my senses available.
That's kind of bold. That's bold. That's a bold move.
That's a baller move, dude.
If I die, just have it be quick and not hear it coming.
I guess so. Someone gave it 2.5 stars, and someone said, so are you guys legitimately scared of this movie, or is that just one big joke? Someone gave it 3.5 stars and said, the haunting of mesothelioma's house. Yeah.
That's good.
Someone gave it 4 stars and said, maybe I'm crazy, but I truly believe Session 9 has got to be one of the scariest movies ever made.
Dang it.
Highly
See, that's
recommend.
what I keep hearing.
Yeah. Someone said, actually, I saw this other review, and someone had a stress-induced seizure.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
Yeah. Someone gave it 4.5 stars and said, had to take a breather after this one. My heart's still racing. Masterclass in tension and surprise. The perfect example of the effect horror can have on viewers. Forget The Shining when talking about this psychological horror and talk about this.
Okay.
I kind of preferred The Shining over this, though.
Well, yeah, that's masterclass.
Yes. I don't know. Someone gave it 4 stars and said, this is one of the greatest psychological horror movies I have ever seen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we got your rating for this movie.
A 1.
You give it a 1? Okay.
One
that's
and a
fair.
half.
That's fair.
Yeah.
You had something that you pointed out to about this movie that stood out to you, which was the building too.
Me?
Yes. Yeah. And the creepiness of abandoned buildings.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I have my own list of haunted places that I would want to go and check out.
What are your top 5 that you want to go to?
The Clown Motel next to the cemetery. I
Dude,
think that'd
Chelsea
be
went to
super
that.
Awesome. Yeah, my mom said she wouldn't stay there.
I would. That'd be awesome.
I think it's really cool.
I'll stay with you, Angelus. We'll make Vienna stay in her own room.
I all want to stay together.
There's like castles, like a few, like I don't know, just in different places. The Queen Mary, I think that'd be really fun. The ship.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Lizzie Borden house.
The Queen Mary, I think San Diego or it was.
Yeah, like California. It's
yeah.
Like, yeah. Alcatraz would be fun too, or like Salem.
Okay.
I think that'd be cool too.
Hell yeah, dude. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Alcatraz we can do in a weekend, man.
Yeah. I have on here, not really like, I don't know, like haunted or abandoned, but I just think they're cool, is like cathedrals, like the Notre Dame. It was built from like 1163 to 1260.
Hell yeah.
It had many revisions and design changes. The wooden and lead spiral was built during a renovation in 1859. There was a fire in 2019, so they had to like fix it back up.
Mm.
And then there's La Sagrada Familia in Spain.
Dude, that thing is crazy looking.
Yeah, like the starting build time was 1882, and it's still not finished. They're gonna finish
That's
it
amazing.
in 2026. So around 144 years of build
Yeah.
time. And then the Cologne Cathedral in Germany, it was built from 1248 to 1880. So like around over like 600 years. And
That's a lot of time for
Yeah.
construction.
Yeah. It took major like
I feel like
damage-
that's job justification. Like,
What do you mean?
like we got to keep working on this. This is gonna be 60 years.
Yeah.
This is gonna be 100 years.
I wonder if there's like.
This is gonna be generational. My whole family's gonna have to.
That's
work
what I
on
was
this.
gonna say. Is I wonder
Yeah,
if any of them have
Generations,
like
yeah.
generations of families that
Oh,
just
yeah.
Oh yeah.
work on this.
That's
I-
hilarious.
It took major damage around World War II, and it had to be fixed. And then, like, there was rain, like, in the 60s and 70s that did damage to the sandstone exterior, so they had to fix that.
Damn.
Yeah. And then, people also say it was installed between 1355 to 1360. It was used until 1410 and removed in 1868. It's 515 feet tall.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's like they started building it in 1248, and then it halted in like 1560, and they attempted to keep building it in 1814, but they didn't have all the funding to do it, so they like started again in 1840, and then they finally finished in 1880.
That's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, you guys map out your tour of haunted places.
Mm-hmm.
I will drop you off at the door and I'll pick you up in the morning.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, definitely. So we want to talk about what's on the agenda coming up here.
Oh, for the coming weeks.
Yeah, the coming weeks. Guys, so listeners, if you've hung in there, we're about 2 hours, 14 minutes into this podcast. If you hung in here, we probably should have talked about it in the beginning, but we're going to take a little vacation, put a good bookmark on all these films. This was a trial. We're learning, we chose 14, 15 films to do.
It was like 6 months of planning.
It was long. So we're going to revamp how we do it. We're still going to be weekly. That's our intent, every Monday content, but we're going to take a vacation, clear our minds. And after that, we're going to come back. We are going to send out a mini episode here in a week, probably next Monday, giving the movies that me and Angeles are going to pick. We're going to do a lower number this time. I think we'll each pick like 3 apiece, and then that'll be the season. And then we'll take another, we'll end that season, and then we'll readjust and go back to next season. So we're going to revamp it a little bit. So we're just not going 43 weeks in a row was
That's a long.
definitely tough. So we want to just break it up. That way we don't sacrifice either the content either. We want to give you, the quality. We want to give you guys 100%. So we're going to take this time to kind of get recharged, recouped, get back at it. And then we're going to pick out some movies. We're even going to send out a poll. And guys, if you're listening, just send it to us, message us a movie suggestion, and we will pick one from the listeners.
Yeah.
So send those out. Be curious to see, excited to see. But yeah, be on the lookout for that. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll have a new episode out for you. But yeah, do we have anything else?
That is it.
Lord Pineapple Doodle, your package will be coming. All right. So with that, let's say goodbye. Hasta la casi. CC.
Ciao,
Ciao,
ciao.
ciao. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Horror Cinema Obsession. We hope you had as much fun as we did. If so, help spread the word by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And join us next time for another episode of Horror Cinema Obsession.